All right, you're listening to On Deck, presented by Amazing Met Zone. I'm Phil from Shirley with the terrible phone, here with my boy Drew Minotti 82. What up, Drew?
Going on, people? What's happening, Philly?
Trade deadline just passed. We were having this conversation a week ago. We're like, yo, we got to put something out. Top five best Mets trade deadline moves of all time. If it's in within a couple of days of the trade deadline, we'll count it. We're not counting the Piazza trade and some other moves that were made in the off season. This is strictly deadline moves, and we're not even going to talk the bad ones. There's so many bad ones. The Midnight Massacre. There's just too many to even name right now, but I'm going to start with my number five best move, and it's last year. It's the Mets trading Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander to different teams, getting Luis Acuna Jr., getting Drew Gilbert and Ryan Clifford for Justin Verlander. Just Stevie, Uncle Stevie showing that I'm going to eat the money on these guys, and we're going to go out and get top prospects. I had to put this on my list. Number five, Uncle Stevie. Thank you.
It's crazy, man. I think we should start talking about our top five before we do this because that's my number five too. 2023, Max, Verlander, Fam, Leone, like flipping Leone for I think it was Jeremy Rodriguez or Jeremiah Jackson, Anna Robertson. Just unloading, and like you said, eating that money with the highest payroll in baseball, and in years past, we never would have been a move we would have made like that. We wouldn't have money. And the fact that Cohen was ready to eat the money and built up the farm. I mean, like you said, Gilbert, Clifford, Acuna, Jeremiah Rogers, Jeremy Rodriguez, Jeremiah Jackson, guys
Yep.
that just built our farm. In a few moves. And I know people talk shit about Billy Epler. I'd like to think he had some say in those moves, but at the same time, it's Cohen, and at the end of it, just eating that money. So
Mm-hmm.
2023 is number five for me for sure.
My number four, it's a move that was made about a week before the deadline, and it's for two guys in 2015 when the Mets traded and got Juan Uribe and Kelly Johnson. Those two guys came on the team, and you just seen it change right away. We had guys in the lineup that shouldn't have been. We had 4A players, and these guys came in. They were major leaguers, and they made an immediate impact on the run for our 2015 World Series appearance. Juan Uribe, Kelly Johnson, great players, great move. They're my number four.
Yeah, Uribe. I used to call him Coke Can. I don't want to tell you for what reason, but yeah, Uribe is the man. I like that guy. Uh, my number four is 1997 Turk Wendell. We trade away Lance Johnson, who sets the team record for most hits the season before. Strike while the iron's hot, get rid of him. He helped that '99 team bolster that bullpen. Turk Wendell is one of those personalities that you won't forget. Throwing the rosin bag, coming out with the shark tooth necklaces. Like, the guy was just a beast. I think there was someone else involved in that trade too, but Turk Wendell was that main piece. And like I said, trading away Lance Johnson, that's like ballsy, but that's the move that they needed to make. And yeah, Turk Wendell is always one of my favorite bullpen pitchers. And like I said, without him, who knows where we would be in '99. So number four for me is Turk Wendell in '97.
Love that. I love Turk. Love Turk. Heard a crazy story about Turk trying out for a college baseball team where he rode a bike like 30 something miles to get to the tryouts because he had no car. My number three, it's going to be a move that was made in 2011. Carlos Beltran getting traded for Zach Wheeler. What a big move for us. I feel like Zach Wheeler was just consistent for us in that time. We look back at all those starters and we think obviously DeGrom just being on another level. But when all said and done, not for what he's done with the Mets, just overall as a whole, Zach Wheeler is probably the best out of all those guys. So my number three, Carlos Beltran for Zach.
I mean, I guess we really got to start talking about this beforehand because
No, I love it.
is Beltron for Wheeler. I mean, he was going to leave anyway, Beltron. And that was like that 2011 season where you weren't sure what was going to happen with him, and the trade for one of these top prospects from San Francisco. Wheeler was he was that man. Like you could just see it, and like you said, like all those other guys, it was nice to see, but like look at longevity. I mean, he's still a stud right now. Giving up Beltran was tough, but at the same time, like I said, it seemed like he was going to leave, and Wheeler was an up and coming prospect. Get him was pretty exciting. So my number three, I know it seems like I'm piggybacking off of your picks. I bet you number two and number one are probably the same too.
They're probably the same too, which is great.
Yeah. So my number three is Beltran Wheeler, 2011.
All right, my number two, and it's only my number two because I wasn't alive at this time, but just to think of the impact that it had for this team. And people don't realize the trade deadline back in the day used to be June 15th. So in 1983, June 15th, the St. Louis Cardinals trade Keith Hernandez to the New York Mets after Keith Hernandez has an issue with his manager, Whitey Herzog, over actually a drug issue where Keith never comes to him and apologizes to him, and he eventually gets traded and sent to Siberia, in his own words. That's where he thought he was getting sent, to the New York Mets. And the rest of the story, it's history. Keith goes on to win a title. The captain of the New York Mets. My number two, Keith Hernandez, traded to the New York Mets.
Awesome. 1983. I was 1 years old. Not even. I wasn't even one yet.
Old man.
Yeah. Number two for me, it's probably going to be your number one. 2015 Cespedes. What a trade, man. I mean, the guy was a monster. And, giving up Michael Fulmer at the time, you're like, oh, this guy could be a good pitcher. But we talked about this earlier today, just like these prospects are prospects. And, Fulmer was like up and up. But I remember the Carlos Gomez deal falling through. We were trying to get Carlos Gomez back. And I was so pissed that we didn't get him back. And then we get Cespedes. I'm like, oh, shit. Like, this is even better. Like as much as I love Carlos Gomez, like look what Cespedes did for us in 2015. Like that team wouldn't have been anywhere near what it was without Cespedes. So it was an easy one for me. Number two, Cespedes, 2015, locked it up.
Love it. I mean, now piggybacking off of you, my number one, it's got to be Cespedes. Michael Fulmer and Luis Cessa for Yoenis Cespedes. I can't believe it. Just like we were talking about before, the prospects. They're prospects for a reason because they haven't done anything yet. Give me a guy like Yoenis Cespedes. We've seen what he did for this team. He carried us to this 2015 World Series. Without him, we're not even in the playoffs. He was an MVP candidate with coming to the team July 31st. So for me, it's Yoenis Cespedes by a landslide. Seeing him, that team, I had no expectations that year to make it to the World Series. That year was like a surprise. It happened so quick. I miss it, and I regret not enjoying the little moments that year.
Yeah, it's like that. I equate it to like almost like getting Piazza. It's like that same big bat you line up that just changes your whole lineup, and that's what Cespedes was. My number one is your number two. Number one, Keith Hernandez, 1983, getting traded. Like you said, he was a St. Louis guy. He didn't want to leave St. Louis. I heard that he, possibly could have asked for a trade after that first year in the Mets. And he said that he spoke to his dad, and his dad told him to stay on the team. And, I didn't listen to my dad so many times, and I was always wrong. So I finally listened to my dad, and he's like, thank God I did, because staying with the Mets was the best thing he could have done in his career. The driving force in the 80s, those teams, the captain, like you said, one of the best, broadcasters we've ever had. I just feel like Keith in 83, what a difference maker. Even like guys on the team, he even said, watching some of those young guys play like Strawberry, like in the minors, that was one of the reasons why he wanted to stay was, he saw there was a promise on our franchise with our franchise. Mm-hmm. So him staying was huge. But yeah, getting that trade was unreal, and like I said, I was 6 months old at the time, whatever it was, but I was still alive. So I could say that I saw all five of mine. But no, yeah, Keith, number one, easily best trade deadline move in Mets history.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, everybody, for supporting us. We want to hear your top five in the comments. Who's your top five Mets trades all time at the deadline? As you could tell, Drew is just way older than me. That's why we have this difference of opinion in the list. But like we said, we want to hear your list. Thank you for listening. We'll be back with more.
Let's go, Mets.
This is always so tough. I got to hit fucking 4 buttons.